Welcome to Mucho TV, where we learn from one another and grow. My name is Janvier Nahimana. I am with a special guest, Lysiane Mukarabe. For those who don't know you, who is Lysiane Mukarabe?
First of all, I'd like to say that I'm very, very pleased and very happy to finally get to talk to you. And maybe in the course of the conversation, I'll tell a little bit how we met, you and I, on somehow, and we connected. But to come back to your question, who is Mukarabe Lysiane? So I am, first of all, Burundian. I was born and raised and educated in Burundi until I finished university. Then I'm here in America. So Mukarabe, Lysiane, first of all, Lysiane was born in Mugongomanga. Lysiane is the last born of 7 children. And as I tell people, I am the only one who do not have a picture with my entire family because my dad passed away before I turned 3. So I grew up basically with my mother, and my mom, her maiden name was Mukarabe, and her first name was uh, Immaculate. So because of the relationship I had with my mother as the last born, and knowing that I just wanted to be like my mother. My mom didn't really go to school. She went to school in Rushubi just to get baptized. So she learned how to read a little bit. She learned that because I guess she had a curious mind, but also from what I hear, my father, Hiranyibagira Jacques, was a man of vision. And he was educated, and he he wanted to start schools in our area, and he was a visionary to send all his children, especially the girls, to school, which he did. He sent our firstborn daughter to school, and the son who came after her. So I grew up hearing all these stories. My mom would tell me the stories when I would be discouraged, just want to give up and say, what's the purpose? And my mother would say, no, you have to go to school. You have to go to school because you may not know it by now, but education will be your survival. Education will be like your passport to whatever you want to do. So she pushed me, and I got so close to her that when I found myself in exile, first of all in Kenya, but mostly in America, I felt strongly that I should at least add her name on my name. So I took Mukarabe and I made it like a middle name. In America, you can have 4 names. You have middle name. Or I don't know, maybe in Canada it's the same way, but here they are very big on middle names. So I took Mukarabe as my middle name. So when fast forward, I met my husband that you have already met, George Makinto, commonly named Makinto. He liked more Mukarabe than Lysiane. So he composed the song, Mukarabe, and he convinced me. He didn't have to convince me because I liked my mom anyway. And he asked me if I could put Mukarabe as my first name. So when we got married in 2000, no, 1992, when we got married, I put Mukarabe, then Lysiane, then our last name. So so that I can continue to feel like I am with my mom, because everything I think I know, who I am, the person you see, I honor my mother because she taught me love. She didn't teach me, she demonstrated the love. I told you I was the last born of the family, but I ended up almost becoming the firstborn. You know how Africa is. You grew up with the cousins or even children from the community. So I grew up being almost elders of number one, my nephews and nieces, but also people in the community. And it's a responsibility I took because of how I grew up. So before maybe we continue, this is why right now my names are Mukarabe Lysiane Makinto Inandava, because Inandava was my maiden name. So when I am in Africa, I am known as Lysiane, and many people who know me to school, I did 1 or 2 years at Athénée Primaire, and then I went to the middle school in Ngagara, École Moyenne Pédagogique des filles, et après, I went to lycée Clarté Notre-Dame à l'époque. Now I'm mixing languages, I'm sorry. So, lycée Clarté Notre-Dame, which is now lycée of Vugizo. So that's how I evolved. And then I went to university. I did the faculty of English, did English languages and literature, which I fought to get into that faculty because I felt something told me that I need to learn English, and I loved English so much that I could do anything to be in a place where I could read books. So when we saw the places of where they wanted us to go, which faculty they wanted us to go. You know how it's the government who decides where you go. So they did not give me the first choice, which was English department. They gave me the law department. I did not want to study law, but my family, everybody I knew told me that I should study law because the area where we come from, they have lawyers. There are names I can tell you, maybe you recognize. There are the Mabushis, there are the Yanghundis, there are many people in our area who are lawyers. So they just assumed that I should be happy that they gave me the law department, but I did not want to do law. So I reported the first day, the second day, the third day, and the fifth day, because our professor did not show up. She was a politician at the same time. And I started looking around and said, where is so-and-so? Where are my friends? So one of my friends, she lived in Canada as well, was in English department. And they had been studying since day one. They were in class. I decided to report in the English department. So I went in, sat down, and the professor who was there said, well, if you are not on the list of my list, of the list of this department, you should report where they sent you. So I asked him to give me the list. So sure enough, I knew I was not on the list, but I added my name on his list. I said, now you have my list, I'm here. But it took me longer to convince people to let me stay in English department. But I loved English and I was good at it. So there was nothing they can do. So that's how I evolved in English. So I got my Bachelor of Arts in English, and we went to Dar es Salaam. We did our researches in Dar es Salaam. The director of my thesis was in Dar es Salaam. So in Dar es Salaam, we traveled a little bit. We went to Zanzibar. We went to Bagamoyo. I saw where the slaves that the Arabs, the Arabs came to Africa to enslave people before the slavery that we know today. So the Arabs started it. And you may recall, Janvier, that we used to sing about Rumariza. Rumariza. So these are the Arabs who tried to infiltrate in Africa, but they didn't catch anyone from Burundi. Why? Because when they came, Burundians, they all came together. They came together as one, and they fought, and the Arabs did not take any single Burundian, nobody, to enslave them. That tells me that Burundians at one point, we are united.
Tell us about this good time you spent in Burundi.
Oh, Janvier, I can tell you that I really, really had a great time. Apart from difficulties of growing up fatherless and poverty and all kinds of things, once I started school and once I had in mind that I would have to finish school and maybe help Burundi develop, because as you say, Burundi has not always been the way it is today. Yes, there were difficulties. There have been waves of difficulty, as we know it in the history. We have to admit that. But still, there was a life. There was a life. I went to school with I remember we had Abatwa, we had the Hutus, we had the Tutsis in the same class. So to tell you how I was, my friends in the classroom used to tease me this. They knew my passion for Burundi. They knew that I would never go back somewhere else. So they would say that when we finish university, for example, they would have to create a ministry, and the ministry would be called the Ministry of Pleasure and the Good Times. And I'll be the minister for that ministry. And I will, even now, if it's something like that, I would love to do that, because you have to feel that you have to feel peace in yourself and joy to be able to contribute to society, to the other person. So when I was in Ngagara at École Moyenne Pédagogique, I started to befriend people, a couple. They were from Canada, English speaking Canada. They were in Burundi. So I started to befriend them so I can start to learn English, so I can start hearing other people. So what I did, I asked them if I could work in their house, cleaning the house. Let me work in your house, because they had books, English books. So I wanted to read their English books. So they hired me. But not only that, we were friends. With one of my nieces, we traveled with them throughout the country, throughout Burundi. They took us to places in Nyakazu. There are so many, how do you call it? There's so many rivers. The topography of Burundi is so diverse that you can go from the north, and you see how it changes once you get to the southern part and the eastern part and the southern part and anything inside in between. It's amazing. Our country is amazing. So we traveled with them, and then later on I traveled on my own and my classmates too, and there was no problem at all. Anytime, anywhere we went, we were welcomed. And even where I grew up hearing that you can't, when you eat, you have to keep a little bit aside. Maybe that's how everywhere it is. You can't eat everything, because at anytime somebody else may knock on your door. So you need to be able to feed the person if the person comes from far away. So that's how I grew up. And then I kept hearing other things, seeing how Burundians are amazing. So au lycée, at the Lycée Clarté Notre Dame, I was, since MP, I was the captain of the volleyball team. So, and even when I went to Lycée of Vugizo, I continued to play volleyball. But I also joined a group of dancers. So some were dancing Kinyarwanda, other people were dancing Kirundi, but the team that was dancing Kirundi, we were dancing Kirundi, and at one point, we joined with a group of tambourinaires from Atene, and they would drum, and we would dance on the drums. This was the first time. I think it was revolutionary. We even were on the national TV. It was amazing. So I grew up really enjoying myself in spite of the difficulties. difficulties sometimes it they come, but it's the most important thing is how you go through your difficulties. You can let yourself be defeated by the things, but you can also be victorious. My mother would always tell us, and I think it's a general proverb that all Burundians know, that akatavuga nikananira akavuga. You cannot be defeated by something which cannot talk. You talk. Because you talk, you think. Because you think, you can find a solution. So there's no way something that which does not speak can control you. That's how I grew up. You go through difficulties and you find your way out, not just by yourself. You have a community around you. You have a community, and most people are willing, were willing really to help. For example, yes, as you mentioned, I saw many people from somewhere else. There was a man from Haiti. I think he worked, I can't remember, WHO. I think he worked with the WHO. And I met him through my friends. I have friends who are in Canada. Pepita is my best friend, and those two, you'll see why I'm mentioning Pepita and Germaine. So Pepita, somehow, because she was my senior, and she had studied English as well, so she knew the world of people who speak English. So we would go out. They would take me from university, and we would go out. So one point, this man from Haiti, when he saw me, he said that I looked like his sister. So he just took me as his little sister. Do you know that he's the one who he paid for me for maybe 3 months to learn computer? There was a place not far from the Librairie Saint Paul on the Chaussée Prince Louis Rwagasore, Compec, I think, if my memory is correct. So I grew up and I mixed with the people who come from outside, even in my own home, because my dad had sent my sister to study in Europe and my brother. So we knew a lot of people from who were not Burundians. But there is a group that impressed on me so much. This is a group of Americans, the Peace Corps. The Peace Corps is a group of younger people. In Europe, I think they also have it, but in Europe, it's mostly those who do not want to enlist to go to the military. Then they will send them to the countries to do whatever. But the Peace Corps specifically, you have to be trained, and they send you in the villages. The Peace Corps people had to work with farmers. If you are a farmer, you work with farmers. Some came to teach people how to farm tilapia. So I started to think, these guys are from America. They come here to help us develop our country. Why not us? So I kept that in the back of my mind, that whatever will happen, now we Burundians can also empower ourselves through education, through experiences, travel a little bit in the area, in East Africa first, and maybe in Africa, and then even in Europe, but come back and develop your country. So that's how I even met my husband. I met my husband, maybe you love this, because it's through music. So he came to Burundi. I was at university. He came to Burundi. They were 4 African Americans who were invited by the American Cultural Centers. So one of our professors, Chrysostom, he also worked at the U.S. Embassy. No, the U.S. Cultural Center. So sometimes he would take us there to listen to how Americans speak English. And at one point we saw the poster of these jazz African Americans, but I saw it, but it didn't tell me much. But Pepita, my friend, and Miriam, they because we were really very close friends. So they came to pick me up the day of the concert. They picked me up. We went to Odeon, and then there was this guy. He was playing flute. He came even so. What he does, he just came in the alley, and he started to engage people with his flute. Then, because one of our friends, her husband was French, and he also was in jazz music. So he had met with now my husband in France. So they connected in Bujumbura. So we went to Black and White with this guy and my friends, and he and we danced the whole night. Couldn't talk, we just danced, and then he left, continued, and I went back to university. So life continued. 9 years later, I am now in America, in the state called Oregon, at Portland State University, where I had enlisted in that college, and I achieved a master's degree in public health, in public administration and health administration. So on the course of me being there, Miriam Makeba, Mama Africa, came to Portland, Oregon. So I went to see the concert, and then in the end, I spare the details from you. Maybe you'll read it in a book one day. So I just wanted to go to meet Miriam Makeba. Oh my goodness, so she can sign an autograph for me. But this guy was in front of stopping, talking to this lady. They were talking at the top of the stairs, so I could not go further. I just waited. And on one point, he looked at me and said, I think the lady was from Liberia. And he asked me if I was from Liberia as well. I said, I recognize the voice. So I asked him if he has ever been to Burundi. And then he asked me to tell him my name. So I told him, my name is Lysiane. And then we connected, and now we are married, and we have 3 beautiful sons. They are all in that video you saw. So that's how we met, through music, because I love music, I dance, but nothing moves me like the drums of Burundi, which I got an opportunity to see the group here. They came to UCLA, one of our schools here in Southern California, and somebody told me I had to go see them. I don't know if you were with them. If you were there, maybe I met with you. So
Yeah, that is my passion. Drumming is my passion. I started when I was in secondary school. It's a long story. I went in Moscow. I arrived there, and when I arrived at the university, they call it University Patrice Lumumba. Yeah,
wow.
the international university in Moscow, they call it Patrice Lumumba, and there was many students from Burundi. I went to visit them, and they showed me that they were Burundi drums there. That year, there was the international festival for universities around the world. The Burundi university went to Moscow. When they returned back, they they left the drum there. So it was at the time they was putting them in the garbage because for them it was meaning nothing. And
Wow.
I said, no, that is my culture. I had a small room. I took all the drums, living with the drums in my small room. And it's a long story. I will tell you. I get even
Yes.
the time to play in Kremlin, the red place in Moscow. I played in universities, and it was really something that helped me to survive.
Yes. Oh,
That
wow.
time it was the communist time, and
Hmm.
even to go outside to perform, it was dangerous for us. But
Yes.
yeah, I did, and it was really very important for me. My best place, it was the first American casino in Moscow. The manager invited me. I went there. I say, okay, I see music from Latin America, blues, rock and roll, all this. Where is Africa? He said, if you have something, bring it. At that time, I didn't have a team to play the Burundi drums, and I selected some friends. The first performance, I did it with the 2 girls. We put traditional customs from Africa. We went there. The first time we danced a song from Rwandan music, Cecile Kayirebwa, who you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the second weekend, they say, okay, it's interesting. Come Friday again. There, I bring my team and we dance Pepe Kale, the Congolese music. It was really strange. The next time I had four boys that I get time to practice with them the Burundi drums. From that time, all weekend, Burundi drums was playing in American Casino in Moscow.
Wow.
It's a story.
Well, it's amazing. So let me connect a little bit with a story, an amazing story that happened when I was in Oregon. So before I arrived in Oregon, I was in. I went to many different African countries. The first was Kenya. It's my first place of refuge, but I I connected with some people in Texas. So I went to visit them in Texas, and Austin, Texas is so cultural. So I saw many people. I saw one of Bob Marley's son, and many others. But there was a library, and my friend took me to that library, and I saw two CDs of the Burundian drums. So I bought them. So I went back to Oregon. So at one point, I met a couple from Burundi, and they had friends who used to live in Burundi. One of their sons was born in Burundi, but then the son got sick. I think he got some psychological problems. And my friends told me that the parents, every day they would talk about Burundi to their son. He would stop being agitated, so he'd calm down. I said, "Oh wow!" So they came to visit the couple, my friends from Burundi. They came to visit, so I played my drums from Burundi, and they asked me if I can let them borrow my CD and take to their friends, the white Americans who used to live in Burundi. So they took it, and later on, they told me that every time their son cannot stop listening to the drums of Burundi. And when he was listening to the drums of Burundi, they could see an amazing improvement in his being. They didn't need to keep him on medication. Do you know they've never returned my CD, and I'm okay with that because I know it was doing something good. It was helping to tell you that sometimes we don't value what we have. We do not. So the drums of Burundi, because it's not when you come in with the big drums and you're drumming, you feel it in your heart. It grabs you. You feel it. It starts from the heart, and then the whole being. You are in it. That's how, at least that's how I lived the drums of Burundi. So I can imagine why that young American guy who was born and lived in Burundi, probably they would travel to go to Gishora and see all these drums. And the drums of Burundi, it's a therapy. It helped.
I have a story to share with you.
Yeah,
I
please.
I landed in Belgium, Brussels, and we get Burundi drums from Paris. We bring them to Belgium. So we have big community for Burundian in Brussels. We start
Wow.
a group for drummers.
Oh,
So
wow.
we were invited in psychiatric hospital in Germany for people with dementia, and when we play the Burundi drums, because you know the Burundi drums is based on the heartbeat, dudum, dudum,
That's
dudum, dudum. And that it's really a good feeling for the body and the spirit.
yes,
The
yes.
second example I want to let you know, I played 15 years in the biggest athletic meeting in Europe for athletes, and the stadium is a 50,000 full stadium, And all the best athletes from around the world, they come
Yes.
to run and they do sport there. So when runners are running 10,000 meters or 1,000 steeples,
Yeah.
running, we bring the Burundi drums in the stadium. They amplify the Burundi drums when they are running. We keep the rhythm, and the last tour, we increase the rhythm. We played, and every year, it was the best time of the year or the world record. I have videos with
Wow.
Gebre Selassie, Bekele, or the Ugandans. The first time we played in that stadium, 2 world records with the Burundi drums. So it's important just to feel how we don't know how to express this, but somewhere Africans drums, they have this powerful connection with the spirit and the humanity. So one example, but I have many stories to tell you. So the most important just is just to let people know more about you and your journey. How
All
did
right.
you leave Burundi to go outside?
Oh, first of all, to get to the level that I said I'm leaving Burundi, I'm going. It took me some kind of. There was an incident that touched me. I will never forget that particular time, because you know, Janvier, who as a Burundians who wants to live anywhere else? People come to our countries because it's so beautiful, number one, and people are so loving. It's just there's life, especially when you come from outside. What I say that we do not value what we have until we have lost it. But for some reasons, I valued Burundi. I never wanted to leave my country until after I finished university. I started to work with an agency of USAID, and uh, one night I was in my little place I had rented. I was sleeping, and a friend of mine called me, and I pick up the phone in the middle of the night, and she goes like, "What are you doing?" I'm saying, "It's the middle of the night. I'm sleeping." "So where are you sleeping?" I said, "I'm on my bed." And she was like, she was murmuring. She said, "Go under the bed. Go sleep under bed. Under bed." I said, "What happened? What's going on?" "Just go under the bed and make sure you locked your doors." And then she started to talk to me, and she told me, "Tomorrow you have to come to USA." They called us to go back to the office. So that's how, when she told me that, I'm so naive. I didn't hear anything until she talked to me, and I started hearing pop, 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 just all these things. That's when the president Dadai was assassinated. So very quickly, they put roadblocks in the streets. So if I had families in Rohero, Quartier Nesses, I was in Kinindo, it was a hard time to go to see them, because you had to show the paper, whatever, something that we were not used to. But that was okay. So I got to USAID, and the reason why they wanted us to stay there for security, first of all, but also to help their workers or their employees locate their families. They did a lot. The Peace Corps people and the USAID, they really, really helped people. They went out in the countries, and if they had an address where a member of the family was, they would go and help them evacuate them, bring them in a safety place. While we were there, one senior of senior worker employee at USAID, she was a lady. She was from Kamenge. I can't remember her name. We were all just talking, say, what has happened? What is going on? How is this thing's going to end? And she looked at us and she said, "Oh my goodness, why can't you stop pretending as if you don't know what is going on? You are the one who just killed our president, and on and on and on and on. You are, you hate us, you enslave us. I said, Madam, where have you seen us? You know, even here in the USA, I meet you from time to time when we have meetings. You don't know me. How can you tell me that I just killed your president? First of all, he was the president of Burundi. Number two, you have never seen me. And she continued, she was pointing to us. You are the Tutsis. I don't even like to repeat this because it's nonsense. But that's what happened. And she told us that her children, who were probably at that time, that's 1993, right? Probably maybe the oldest will be a teenager and others younger kids. Now imagine who they are right now. And she was telling us that they know who the enemy is, they know who the friend is. The enemy is any Tutsi that they meet, they have to know that he's or she's enemy. So Janvier, I sat down, I got chills, and I started remembering that why didn't my mother tell me who I was? Why didn't she tell me that? But in the hindsight now, I'm thankful. I'm grateful that she never taught us division. She taught us love. She told us that where there is love, where there is love, a skin of a little flea, that little flea can cover 5 people. Because when you have a heart that is loving, it's easy to share. Do you know, I had a white dress that my sisters had made for my confirmation. We were Roman Catholics. Yes, I went through confirmation. And they made this dress for me, custom, tailored, white with the pockets here and the white shoes. So I wore them on the confirmation, but every Sunday when I was home, that's the dress I would take to church. One day I came back home from from school because I evolved in a boarding school, and I looked for my dress. I couldn't find it. I looked everywhere. I said, Mama, I can't find my white dress. I want to wear it tomorrow to church, and my shoes. And she's like, you have never learned. I've taught you. I taught you to share. I said, okay, yeah, but share my dress? How can I share my dress? And she goes like, anyway, I gave it to somebody. She told me I knew that girl. I gave it to her because she needed it. Fine, Mama, but can I go get it back? He said, no, you cannot go get it back. You left it here almost 6 months to a year. You did not wear it. And you cannot wear 2 dresses or 2 pair of shoes at the same time. Somebody needs it, you need to help. You need to help someone in need. I gave it to her and you cannot get it back. That's how I grew up. So hearing someone telling me that I hate people, that I can kill someone, but mostly to hear a mother putting a poison of hatred deliberately in her younger children's heart. I felt, Janvier, I felt that all my resolutions that I would never leave my country, I felt that this was not the country I grew up knowing. And for some reason, I felt like this country is gonna be going through a lot of difficulties. And knowing my heart, I am a rebel at heart. I felt like I need to leave the country. Otherwise, I don't know what might have happened. That's how I left Janvier. I left, but I didn't go far. I went to Kenya because I was hoping that this was like a nightmare. I'm sure every Burundians who is listening, who will hear, they all connect. It was like a nightmare.
You are right that now you are not in Burundi. You are alone. How did you find your way in this difficult time without any opportunities in front of you? How did you start your connection to start your life and get your journey to US?
When I was in Kenya, it was hard because they kept telling us that we are the troublemakers, that we needed to leave their country or go to the refugee camp. Kenya was overwhelmed. There are Somalis, there are Ethiopians, there are uh, many Sudanese, there are Rwandese, there are Congolese. Now here are Burundians coming there. It was difficult for us, but I felt like I needed to succeed. I needed to make it for those who did not, maybe will not be able to come out of the country. And I needed to succeed for my mother and from my family, because even as I was the youngest, at one point I started to work when I was still in school. I was teaching English to French people. I was teaching French to English people. I was just to gain some money, and every little money I got, it was to help. It was to help my nieces, my sisters. We had lots of difficulties in my family, so I felt like now that I am outside, I will stay in Africa somewhere close, and I will have to find a way to make a living so I can continue to help. So for me, refugee camp was not an option. I said, there's no way I'm gonna go to a refugee camp. I have a Bachelor of Arts in English languages. I speak French. I can get by with Swahili if they want me to speak Swahili. So why would I go waste my life in a refugee camp? So I started looking for a job. My antenna was open. People approached me. They wanted to smuggle me out of the country. I felt like, no way, that's not the right way to go. I stayed and I found a job for myself. I found myself a job with the United Nations World Food Program. That's how I made it. But the other thing, Janvier, I keep coming back to my mother. Everything my mom taught me kept coming back. It actually really sustained me. Right now, I can tell you, right now as we speak, I can tell you that God is working my life, because at one point I saw the truth. I got the truth in America. I became what they call born again, and I understood who God is. We have Iman is our God, and as you said that, somehow with the drums we connect with the spirit. I think we are very spiritual. The Africans, we are very spiritual. For some reasons we connect deeply with the spirit. We just have to understand certain things. So after I understood certain things, this is now fast forward. I know that I could no longer say, which I used to say, that I'm a self-made woman. Nobody helped me. I fought for myself, but it's not true. God was there, whether I like it or not, whether I knew him or not, he was directing me because he knows the end from the beginning. His plans are not our plans. We can plan whatever we want, but it's his plans because he is higher, and his plans are good. They are always good if we want to listen, if we want to submit, because God is a holy God, and God will not share his glory to a mere little nobody like me. But I'm not a nobody, because he showed me, Janvier, that we sometimes we believe a lie. I had my entire life, because people would tell me that I'm an orphan, that I come from that household of a widow, and people start looking down upon you, and you start believing that. You start believing that, oh yeah, it's true, I'm an orphan. Even what you do, even when I'll be fighting, I just wanted to fight so I can, as a reactionary, I wanted to react and to prove that no, I can also do something. So that's the lie I want to connect to even now what's going on in our country. We believe lies. That's we know what's happened with the colonizers. They come and they take one of people. They first of all they categorize us in this thing they call ethnicity, where there is no ethnic in Burundi. We speak the same language. We share the same names. We eat the same food. How is that an ethnic? The definition of ethnicity is not that. We probably have clans. Yes, have your clan, I have my clan, but these are just social norms. It's not something that would make me feel that I'm not like the other person. In other African countries, they have a lot of tribalism because they have tribes. The tribe, they identify themselves with the language, they identify themselves with the culture. They, but us, the Burundians, you tell me, what tribes? We say this is a lie. We have to take this thing out of our minds. We are Burundians, all of us, and whether we like it or not, we are Burundians, and we will go back to build a Burundi for all Burundians. I have never forgotten that. And that also kept me going. That fact is that no matter what happened, how I left, now I'm in Kenya. I found a job with the United Nations. It was very difficult for me in the beginning, Janvier, because the World Food Program was feeding and sending other things, medical equipment, many things, to the refugees of 1994 from Rwanda. There was a genocide, and at one point, they left the country. Those who have committed genocide, they left the country and went to Goma, they went to Ngara, they went to all over the place. So as a World Food Program person, I was in charge of channeling all the aids, sending journalists. I had a fleet of small aircraft. So people, I needed to put them on that list. In the beginning, I felt that no, the rebel and that spirit of justice grabbed me. I was like, this is not right. How is it possible? What am I doing? I'm here because somebody decided that I should not be in Burundi. And this is what happened in Rwanda. So now I'm here channeling food, medical equipment, money to the people who had just killed other people. And my mom's voice, uh, I taught you to love. I did not teach you to hate. I taught you to love. I did not teach you to hate. And also I needed the job. Let's be frank. So I found my way through, and in the end, it was great. I went to Madagascar on another assignment as a UNV, United Nations volunteer in Madagascar. For this time was a development project, but then my contract ended, and I didn't know where to go. So people, people I connect with, it's a good thing to keep good relations. This world is so small, Janvier, that we better know what we're saying. If I lie, if I commit some kind of crimes, thinking that nobody will know, it's not true. It's very, very small. We have to know that we are all human beings. We have to treat others with dignity, with value, and share what you learn and learn from others. That's why friends I had met a long time ago in Burundi, from America, in that office of Peace Corps, they helped me come to America. That's how I came here.
You have too much to tell. You have a large background. And tell me how you connected with United Nations to be ambassador for goodwill for United Nations. Tell me that journey for you.
Well, first of all, my husband is the one who became the goodwill ambassador for an agency of United Nations. But I was the one who actually brought him to United Nations. So when I was in school in Oregon, as I said, my dream and my plan was not to stay in America. I was waiting for my documentation to go through. I was waiting for my green card so I can travel. So the moment I get my green card, I'm going back to the UN somehow, somewhere, and I'm gonna go and they will send me back to Africa, and I'll start working in Africa, maybe closer to my home country, Burundi. So that's why when I met with my husband in Oregon through Miriam Makeba, we we toured Europe, throughout Europe, because he was still living in Paris, and he would go to places like Davos, like Lucerne, Zermatt, many places. That's where because he was playing music. So we toured almost a year, but every 6 months I'll come to America because that's a requirement so that if one day I want to become a citizen, I had to prove that I had a continuous living in America. So when uh, his tours were done, we came to New York. So obviously, I started gravitating in around New York, in New York City, and around the United Nations. There's an agency called the Congo, the Conference of NGOs. So they hired me, and I started to work advocating for the southern grassroots and civil society for their participation at the UN. So that's how I entered in the UN. So parallel to that, my husband had come from Burkina Faso, and there's an agency that had asked him to help them to represent them at the UN. So in the year 2000, in May, there was what they call the United Nations Millennium Forum. So the Millennium Forum was a forum, but it's a meeting of all the civil societies from the entire world. They all congregated in the UN, and the objective of the civil society from the world was to sit together and see the let me say that the plan, the vision was to end poverty from the whole world in 2013. That was the goal of the UN. So to be able to prepare that, they needed a document that they would use. They needed to pick the brain of the civil society, who are the ones who are working actually with the people in those countries. So we all came together, and the African caucus met. There were many subdivisions. Some would, the young people, older people, some would study health, others would study other things. So we came together and we formed that caucus for Africans. But after the document, we did a good job, and we got all these notes and things like that. But then the leaders of that African caucus said that they needed at least a committee of people who would put in place a document that would present to the person who was responsible to take it. And maybe they'll take some points, and they took some point. They would take some points from African caucus, from the Latino caucus, from European caucuses, and they'll create a document to be presented to the Millennium Summit, where the world leaders will meet in September of that same year. So they picked us up, my husband, myself, and two friends from Cameroon. So we sat together and we took all the information that the African caucus gave us, and we created one document that could be presented to the director of that forum. So after we finished, we gave it to him, and the Africans were the first one to finish that document. And when we gave it to them, they looked through it and they said that there was nothing, not one single point or paragraph they wanted to take out. So they took it as is, and then they received others from other places, but our document was affixed as it was. So it constituted what they call I think it's they keep changing the names, but it's a Millennium Development Goals. So the Millennium Development Goals, I have it somewhere. I forgot. I can show it to you. They gave us a copy. So the Millennium Development Goals is still used today. All the countries, the nations of the world take reference to that document and see how well they're doing to end poverty, to end maybe HIV and AIDS, malaria, or maybe to bring water. We covered everything. That's number one. So then, because I had been a girl guide, girls, so you had the scout movement. I was a guide, and one of the grassroots organization in New York was representing the Girl Guides and the Girl Scouts. So they came to my office. So they asked me to join their organization. I joined, and then I told them that I was an advocate. I wanted to advocate for the orphan girls in a conflicted country, in a country where there's conflict, like Burundi. So I told them that if I join them, that's what I want to do. So they said yes. So we would go together, had meetings. At one point, the General Assembly of the United Nations wanted to hear us. So we went, and I was part of them. So I represented the difficulties of being an orphan girl in Burundi. So that's number one. And then from there, they invited me, the ECOSOC, the Social Economic Forum of the United Nations. They invited me, they gave me a proper interview. And that's how I did it. I told them, look, I know the UN, you deal a lot with numbers, with statistics, but for us, we have names, we have faces. So I said, if you allow me, I'll give you a name, a face. I'll put at least one face to your numbers, your statistics of something, a true story of what happened to an orphan girl in a country where there's war. So I developed that, I presented it. That document is, I think that interview is on the website. If you search, you can find it. So then there are many other things that I did with the United Nations, but everything I did with the United Nations had to do with Burundi. When my husband was nominated the Goodwill Ambassador for Peace and Development, we sat together, and I remembered how probably the big agencies of the world, when they come to our countries, first of all, they deal with the governments. There's nothing wrong with to deal with the governments, but most of the time, the people in need and the grassroots level, most of the time, they don't see neither the money, nor the empowerment, nor the teaching that would contribute to put them in a place where they can be independent. So that's how we talked, and I'm like, okay, so how about we start an organization? So because I have been helping the orphans from Burundi anyway, so let's start an organization and we start helping our people. So he said yes, and then we got a vision. We got a vision to create something that is called Mugongo Manga Multiplex. The Mugongo Manga is the area where I was born. So obviously we have land, so we wouldn't need to buy land. We would utilize my family's land, and the multiplex would have a school, like my father wanted to build school. Would build skill training schools. My husband is in the music, would put out there a music center, a cultural music center, where would exchange music with the whole of Africa. People coming, and we're sending people from Burundi to West Africa where he evolved. And so we had that. I still have we have it as a plan. and it has to have a hospital or at least a health center. And we would have a, a agricultural, and then we would transform the agriculture, food transformation, so we can teach people how to make bread from the wheat that we grow, from the corn that we grow, for everything. And then also small animal farming. We all have it. So we wanted to go to Burundi, Janvier. We want to go to our country and start it somewhere and then spread it throughout the country and throughout East Africa and throughout Africa. That, that was the plan. 2015, people, and we did that actually. We did it. My husband and some of our kids went to Burundi in 2009, I think. They went to Burundi to work with the street kids and orphans. So they teamed up with the church and they spent 3 weeks coaching soccer, because all our kids play soccer. My husband is also a coach. And so we sent, I didn't go. I just told my family, I said, my family is coming, please just take care of them. I didn't need to go. I knew my family would take care of them. That's how Burundians, that's how we are. That's, at least that's the memory I have in Burundi. So they did go and they would teach music. David, who is now our son, who is 21, just finished at the USC in music. He does film. He plays music, and he knows our culture. He went even to many other things. So they went to Burundi, spent 3 weeks, met with the minister of culture at that time. I think it was what's his name? Anyway, the name Migabo, I think. Migabo was the Minister of Culture. They made plans. We can help. We will bring soccer stuff. We really wanted to do something in Burundi. They would teach music. And because at that time he was also a pastor, Janvier, it took them a long time to get soccer teams together, because there were teams. The church we teamed up with was in Musaga. So people from somewhere else didn't want to come to Musaga, but they had soccer teams that needed to play. And we had trophies. Was whoever wants, you come, you compete, and then we will meet in one point in one evening, and we will showcase people who did music, who did theater, and those who would have won. We'll give them the trophy. So people came for that. But every beginning of the games, he would gather people and he would pray and he would teach people Amahoro, peace. So that's how it happens. So we wanted to do something. So the orphans that we were helping in Burundi, because of that spirit, they went out and created a huge organization in Burundi that was touching all the orphans as orphans in Burundi. They grew up. The philosophy we used was, if you are a family, you are siblings. Instead of letting families take one here, the other one there, and separate them, we felt like we need to keep them together in group homes so they can figure out life together. They can mourn together because they are siblings. So they lost their parents together. So we wanted to create an environment where they can stay together. We didn't create an orphanage. That's how we did it, and that's the mind we wanted to do. Kind of the SOS village. That's how they do it. But for us, they needed to stay in their homes. So for some, the parents had died before they could finish building the house, or before they could maybe pay off the money they borrowed. So that's what we will do. We'll pay off the debt, and they will help to develop their homes. So we send them to school. They got married in 2015. What happened. Some of them had to run away. Some of them got shot, and others, but they survived. So that's how they went through Rwanda, and to Uganda. I had never been in Uganda, although I lived in that area. I know Kenya, I know Tanzania, I know Rwanda, I know Congo, but Uganda, I just went there in August 2015 to help those people. So we met with them. I helped them get their papers in Uganda, and then a friend of us helped us to buy land and build a center, which is Amahoro Life Center. Our organization, Amahoro International, at that point in California was also registered. So we started to raise funds, and everything happened, Janvier, with the community. People we meet at the soccer field, people we meet in our churches, have a prayer group that I pray with. They all knew me because every time there was something in Burundi, I don't have a community of Burundians. I have only my friends, the mothers of my children's friends. So every time I'll be telling them about Burundi. I couldn't go into a conversation for within 20 minutes. I would have told them how Burundi is, why Burundi. Many people are like, oh, we have never heard of Burundi, and others are like, I have never met anybody from Burundi. I said, okay, so we teamed up. They became, some of them volunteered to be the board of Amahoro International, and then we started raising funds. So Amahoro International has two components. That's why it's called Amahoro International. The Amahoro Life Center is that center we wanted to start in Burundi with all the projects. First of all, we have to build up the person. We have to realize that these are people who have been traumatized in Burundi. So they come with a lot of baggage, plus they speak French. So we had to hire a professor to teach them English. We have to figure out how they can heal, but heal together, just like the orphans. We wanted that our refugee Burundians, those we give them an interview, we bring them out of refugee camps, because in Uganda you can do that. You can, once you register as a refugee, you are free to go anywhere and find a job and work. There's no problem at all. So we were able to bring them in that community. They learned the language, and they learned to live with the communities, but also they learned to live with Burundians. We don't know who is who. We just know that if we give you an interview and we give you a 3 months trials to see if you really want to develop yourself. If you come there, and it happened, there are some who came, older ones with families, they just want to have a beautiful house, a room, a mattress, and food, and clothing. And they were okay. But I told them, no, this is not what we do here. We are not a resettlement of refugees. If you want to sit down so we can feed you, please go back to Nakival here. But if you have a plan, we gave each one of them an interview, asking them what they want to do, connecting them with their dreams, or maybe what they were doing also before they ran away. It's not because you crossed the border and now you are called a refugee that the person God made you is not there. So you just have to reconnect with that person. What we want to do is to give them a platform, to empower them. We send some to school, and with a vision. Some told us, I want to go to school to be a caseworker and administrator. Boom, we found a school for them. The other one is like, my heart's desire is to be an artist, a designer. Find a school, we pay for it. Others will tell us, no, for me, my dream is to raise chickens. Fine, let's build a chicken coop. We train you, and you run the chicken coop. The other ones wanted to do a barber shop. No problem. If you know it or you need training, let's do that. And others wanted to have other skills, computer skills. So we said, fine, no problem. We find some place to learn the computers, and we provide the computers. So we have a computer a learning center. The English class continues. But another thing that was most important for us is leadership. We wanted to teach them leadership. leadership and economic empowerment, but not just for themselves. Everything has to be in the mindset of I am being empowered so I can empower somebody else. So that's how we did it. And today, Janvier, I have to tell you that I do not micromanage anymore. I used to be on the phone 24/7 because of the time difference. But the leaders that we groomed from within are now running the project. I talk to them. I go there once a year. Usually, sometimes I'll go 3 times a year. I'll spend 3 months because of the necessity of things we do. Right now, they are running the project, and it's amazing. The only thing is the COVID-19. It stopped a little bit the flow. We were going to actually expand and buy a land. God connect us with amazing people who own the land there. Uh, there's this one prince. He's actually the brother of the sitting king of Buganda. He just liked me. You are my sister. You are doing a great thing. You're feeding people. You are empowering people. We want to give you land. So he's facilitating land for us. We have to purchase this land and expand. Once we have the land, we are planning to bring more people from the refugee camps, because in the community where we live, we have a camp. They told us because it's not a settlement of refugees, we cannot go beyond 20, maybe 25 maximum for the people who stay there. But the other thing is, once you graduate, you are free to go anywhere. If you see that now you have acquired enough knowledge and you are confident, you want to go start your barber shop in Kampala, we will facilitate that. That's how we do, so we can have more people. But to empower more Burundians, we want to expand the agriculture and the animal farming. So we want to see if we can start tilapia farming as well. So once we have a land, we will be able to bring more workers. They don't have they can be seasonal workers, and we'll pay them. But we also want to do a food transformation.
I found that a name on your connection, which is Rugaba. What Rugaba means for you, and what is your message for peace around the world?
Oh, wow, Rugawa is God. It's one of the names of God. And the name of God is just an attribute. It's the character of God. God is Rugawa. He's the one who owns everything, who gives everything. And he's a good God. He gives to everyone who asks. And one of the things that we all need is peace, Amahoro. Amahoro, which is not a word, is a Burundian. You understand what Amahoro means. When people greet you Amahoro, it means come close, let's share what we have. We want you to trust us, not to feel threatened, because we can live Amahoro. But you cannot give Amahoro to anybody if you don't have it. So that's why God, who is also called the Prince of Peace, reconciled us to himself and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. Reconciliation means if you have wronged somebody and for example, you stopped talking to somebody, you have to go to the person and say, I'm sorry, I wronged you. Can we make peace? So we are God's ambassadors here on earth. And I understood after God reconciled himself to me and forgiving all my sins. Believe me, I had done a lot of things. So I understood that it's my responsibility. It starts with me to go out there and meet somebody and reconcile with that person. It's my responsibility. So peace, doing peace, giving peace, making peace in our communities, it's each individual's responsibility. That's why he gave us even the name of our association, Amahoro International. So Amahoro is that concept that I grew up seeing in Burundi. When the house of a neighbor would burn down, all the neighbors would come together and rebuild the house. Harvest, people will come and they will help you harvest your corn, like maize and other things, and you will move on to the next person to help them. So we do a mahoro together as a community, but it starts in you. So God had to give me peace in myself first, because I was all over the place. So there's a Bible passage that says that once you are in Christ, you are a new person. The old things are gone and the new has come. That's how he now gives you a ministry of reconciliation. And it also says that you are blessed when you live at peace with the other people. Do whatever you can, but if it's in your power, Janvier, you have to live peace with another person, and then the peace will come back to you. That's, you are now becoming a peacemaker. And God says that blessed are the peacemakers, because they will be called the sons and daughters of God. So that's the three things. You have to be a peacemaker, and you have to reconcile, and then you are become an ambassador. You, Janvier, you're an ambassador of Christ all over the world, because your radio touches many people. You are an ambassador for peace. God used us with that video, Amahoro, across the world, and we are teaching people. First of all, we had to teach people how to say Amahoro in Kirundi. It was very difficult. Even some members of our board could not say Amahoro. And then with COVID-19, we felt that we needed to give something back to the world that is quarantined, the world that is locked down. Everybody needs peace, Amahoro, the rich relationship where you are, helping one another, just extending yourself to your neighbor. So that's how we live peace. So the message I want to give you people, especially Burundians, those in Burundi and those outside of Burundi, let us live peace. Let us make peace with one another. Let us reconcile. We have so much in common, so much that unites us. And we have these little tiny things that divide us. So if we come together with an intent and decision to make peace, then our lives, our families will be better, communities will change, our country will change. And once Burundi changes, and nobody is beyond God. Nobody is beyond God's reach. God wants to touch every single person, all Burundians, so we can come together as one and build a country for our children and for their children and for the world. Burundi is the heart of Africa. What is the heart? That's where everything happens in the heart. But the blood pumps, boom. That's why, the drums, boom, boom. Once it just booms, it goes all over. So once the heart of Africa comes back to its feet, once all Burundians start living together in peace, the Horn of Africa, first of all, the region, the area they call the Great Lakes region will change. The East African communities will change. The Horn of Africa will change. It's gonna be like a snowball. Peace will come in Africa, and it will touch the world. So let's live in peace with ourselves, with the neighbor, and let's give it out to the world, so that we can leave a legacy to our children and the new generation to build our homes, our countries, until Christ comes back.
I'm happy really having you to our show, and I wish you Amahoro, peace with you and all your family around you.
Amen. I wish you Amahoro as well.
Thank
And
you.
then I pray that everybody who will listen to your show will feel called to live Amahoro, because with peace you get joy, and the rest is out there. So thank you. You are doing an amazing job. Your radio is called Mucho, the light. So you are being the light in the communities. So when the light comes, darkness has to flee. That's how it is. Umucho for Burundians. Umucho is that, even if it's a candle, we have so much things around us right now as Burundians in the country and outside of the country. We can look around and say nothing is going well. I am in America. We have a lot of things going on in America as a Black person, as a Black woman. But the umucho, which is the light, once it lights up in myself, it goes, I think, hand in hand with peace. Then I can light up in the community. That light, we have to keep it up. Whether we go through difficulties, it's the light that will open up and pierce the darkness around us, and will bring an environment where people can either see what they haven't seen, but at least they will feel not threatened. Because the darkness is, you fear darkness. You don't want to be out there in the darkness. You want to be in a place where there's umucho, where there's light. But there is also another connotation of the light for umucho for Burundians. Umucho is the cultural thing, I think. Imicho, yeah, imicho yach, the values of Burundians. We grew up with the certain norms, certain values. For example, umucho wa Warundi, you cannot, my mother used to tell us, don't kill a frog. Because once you kill something, because that frog, they would tell us that if we kill a frog, my mother would lose the right breast. But I understood that in the tradition of Burundi, they did not want us children to play with other things and to take life from anything that is alive. So in our tradition, Mumicho Kirundi, we do not kill things for leisure. We do not kill a frog. You don't go out there and kill a bird just for fun. Some people just take a gun and kill an animal just for fun. But umucho Kirundi, the tradition, the norms that make us, we don't do that. So for me, it's two things. It's the light that lights up in the darkness, but it's also it's our norms, our tradition as Burundian that can hold us together. And I would recognize you recognize me, that even if we speak English, we will meet, but the way I greet you, the way I respect you, then you will know that we are Burundians. That's umuco w'ikirundi.
Murakoze, mugire umunsi mwiza.
Thank you so much for taking your time to talk with me.